Thank you so much for having me. I am so excited to be here and to talk to you again. This is great.
Okay. We're also gonna be honest, guys, this is take 2, so we're excited doubly now. So before the tech went out, I was just speaking to Deanna about her really interesting background because you entered the digital marketing space, is it 2012 or 2011?
2011, I quit my job, and it was right around 2012 that I dipped one toe in.
When you were looking at this, you had one of the old school marketers tell you at that
Yeah.
time that you wouldn't succeed if you were on social media, right?
A kick to the gut, and I was felt so defeated because I really respected this person. I knew this person well, and I'm gonna go out on a limb and say he had the biggest agency in the area, very well known. So he had a great reputation, and he said that to me, and I felt really, really defeated. And then I didn't. It didn't take real long for me not to. The story starts in 2011, probably 2010, actually. And the week before Christmas, and my youngest son came up to me. I'm home. I'm working corporate America. I have a great job, a job that I love. I'm a divorced mom of 2 young boys. They were 10 and 11 at the time. My youngest son, Alex, comes into the room. He's so excited. I'm doing laundry. I'm holding the laundry basket. And he said, Mom, I know what I want for Christmas. And with the same excitement, he looked up at me and said, Mom, the only thing I want for Christmas is one day home with you to sit on the couch, have hot chocolate, and watch a movie like we used to. So I didn't understand. I called both boys in, sat them on the couch, talked to them. And what I learned was that they needed a mom. It was in that moment I decided I'm going to quit my job. And I told them life is gonna look different, and it did. So if anybody is out there, I am not recommending doing what I did. Financially, it was very challenging, but I quit my job. I looked for a job that balanced the single mom. I'm like, I need to create it. So I started selling cake pops out of my house. Now, at this time, cake pops were not well known. So I called them Sweet D Bites, and which was a play off of my name. I started making them out of my house and started selling them, started getting them into stores, started shipping them, and all over people were ordering them. I got corporate accounts, and I actually had the best TV station in the area reach out to me and say, "Hey, we'd love to barter with you," because I couldn't afford, I didn't have any money. Can we do a commercial for you in exchange? Can you provide your product to our customers? Like, when does that happen? So everything was really working, and I up getting Top Mom in Business from Discover Card and Startup Nation. I got a lot of local publicity. It was on the news a lot, but I really wasn't happy. I was still in this cycle of, isn't really what I love to do, but it kind of, without me knowing, put me on a path. So during that time, because I got so much recognition, I had women reaching out to me saying, "Can we get coffee? I just want to pick your brain." And I'd meet with them and they wanted to know, how did I do what I did? Now, I did everything on social media, which wasn't really being used at that time other than big name stores like Coke or Home Depot or things like that, but smaller people weren't using it. I learned how to design a website, which was torture, by the way. I'd work all day, and at night I'd cry and watch YouTube and figure out how to do things.
Let's just be real that 12 years later, it's still hard.
Torture, it was awful, it wasn't fun, but I figured out how to do it, and then women wanted to learn what I did, and I literally literally would say, "Okay, I'm coffeeed out. I can't keep meeting with all of you individually because I just don't have the time. But here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna be at this location at this time, and if you wanna know what I did, I'll tell you only if you don't hold me responsible if it doesn't work, because I have no idea what I'm doing right now." But it worked. It worked for them. And I did that for a while, and that's where I mean by dipping my toe in, where I was helping other people learn how to use all these digital tools. And that was during the time where this person who reached out to me from the marketing agency, he wanted me to pay for a package to market my little business, and I'm like, "He has no idea. He doesn't understand how social media is building relationships." And people that I went to high school with that didn't even live in the area, that I didn't see since the time I graduated, didn't even think of them. they were ordering my product for their friends because they saw it on social. Like, I mean, I saw the value and he didn't. So, fast forward a few years, we're both speaking at a conference in our town. We're both sharing the stage, and he is now a digital marketing agency. So,
This is the story that when I was on your show, I obviously it didn't come up, right? Because you were asking me questions about what I was doing, but when I read this about you, I was like, "That is amazing," because 1, you got all this publicity and all of this experience from what is a low ticket item, a very low ticket item, right? And everyone's all about, like, the
$2
high
each.
which is a proof that if you have a really good concept and you're getting it into the right channels, it doesn't actually matter. Because I know people are always like, "Oh, how high can you sell whatever you're doing?" But I love that you were able to take such a small item and really get that many people excited about it.
Well, thank you. Again, I had no idea what I was doing. I just knew I have to figure out how to pay these bills because my boys need me. And
Yeah.
when you've got motivation like that, like your children are counting on you and your children are watching you, you're going to figure it out.
Honestly, I think some of the most incredible entrepreneurs out there are moms. I'm just astounded by what you create and how you do it with such a little time. It's like such an inspiration. Whenever I'm having a low day, I'm like, look at that mompreneur. Like, look what she's doing.
You know what? Women are amazing. But men, will automatically assume that they can, like, if there's a job posting, right? And I don't know if you've heard this. I know it's been shared quite a bit over the years. But if there's a job posting, a woman will look at it, and if she hits 75% of what the qualifications are needed, she'll feel like she's not qualified and pass it up. Where if a man looks at it and he sees and he's like, "Okay, I have half of those qualifications." He's like, "That job is mine."
And to understand too that so much of it is like just how we're socialized to with the perfectionism, with the self-doubt, with constantly worrying about what other people think, trying to always create the really positive relationships, which can be really good, like you showed and how you grew with social media. I think that's one of the reasons why we see so many women coming up in the world now is because things like social media and online digital marketing have taken off because that is our expertise, right? Like, we can make those relationships. We know how to do that.
Yeah, you are so right. Absolutely, absolutely.
How did you go let me ask you then backing up a little bit, how did you go from all these women are coming, they wanna get a coffee with you, you're also you're full-time parent, right? Got 2 kids, taking care of them. How did you then start to formalize that offer into Carbon Soak? What was the experience there?
So what ended up happening is as I'm teaching it and talking to people, they're like, uh, "Okay, this is great, but I don't wanna do it. Can you just do it for me?" "I guess, yeah, I could do it for you," right? And then I would do it, and for a while, I did it for free because I just wanted to help. But so finally, I'm like, "Oh, I need to charge for this." Like, I think I have a business here, right? After doing it for a while. That grew from social media, which I no longer do social media, but I will teach you how to do social media. I mainly focus on website design and SEO, but during that growth period, all those years, I would do social media and email marketing and, website design, you name it. That's what ended up happening. I was still meeting in groups, teaching people how to do it or having workshops online.
So you started with you were doing it for your own business. Then you had people coming, expressing interest, saying, we want this. You did the done for you model where you're creating it. And then you switched to the do with you, right? Like help you, etc. And then you pivoted, which is really interesting because what made you focus to shift a little bit more into the website design and the SEO?
I realized after a while, because social media is great, but I realized that it's rented space and you really needed a website. But I will be honest that I did websites for a long time, not even thinking about SEO. Even though I knew it, I'd focus more, I put more energy on social media. And I wouldn't actually implement what I knew to be true and put as much energy in my email. And the reason I'm sharing that is because as I meet with people all the time, That's what I hear from them, and there's almost this, like, embarrassed comment like, "Yeah, I have some emails," or, "I've never even collected any emails, but I haven't used it," and I've heard that before, but I don't know, right? And listen, it's okay. It is 100% okay if you're not using it, but start using it, right? Make the adjustment, and I share because I was there too. I didn't recognize it. I knew it, but I didn't do it.
I mean, guilty party here for sure. But what were some of your excuses? And then what are some of the ones that you hear about why? What were the things that stopped you? Because I know people listening are in this space right now. It might feel easy. I don't know. Like I'm curious, what are the reasons that stop people from branching out into other ways to scale their business?
What and this is something I see too, and I was guilty of it, the biggest reason was that immediate gratification that social media gives you, right? Because you post something and people are liking or commenting. So you're getting that reward right away. Oh, it's working. You send an email out, and usually people aren't responding to your email and replying back. So it feels like I just did all this, but is anybody even looking at it? Right. And you can look at your data, but it feels like you're very alone. Where on social, you've got that quick fix, right? That tells you. So I think that's the biggest thing. What I was doing, you put so much time into social that you don't find the time to put into email. One thing I hear is that nobody opens email. I delete my emails. I get emails all the time and I delete them. I don't even read them. So I'm going to put all this time and energy into writing an email and nobody's even going to open it. My open rate is 30%, right? Okay, if your open rate is 30%, that's great. Every industry is different, but it's really really good. But in school, if you got a 30% on a test, you would be failing, right? So we kind of assume that that 30% is not good enough and we need more. Where in email marketing, it's great. Keep going, like keep pushing. And there is some truth to people may not open that email. Yeah, they may not. But where it's different from social media because people may not see your social media post either. If we look at the algorithm and how that's changed, you could post something and somebody will say, "Well, I didn't even see that." And they didn't because it hit it, right? The difference is that even if that person deletes your email and doesn't even open to see what you wrote and all the hard work you put in, your name, your business name is showing up in their inbox. And that's one touch that you are making them aware that you are still here and you're still present and you're still valuable, even if they delete it. If they don't see it on social media, they don't see it on social media. They may not even know you're there.
I think when you realize that, you realize how critical it is because it's also the thing of if you're looking at like let's say one of the people does open your email in that 30% and you've got to figure that email is not designed to keep people on it. So it is really great because it's going to take someone to whatever CTA you have. It's listen to my podcast, buy my product, join my membership versus on social media like you have to really do work to get that link, and then you're asking someone to disrupt their scrolling time to leave Instagram or leave whatever Facebook to go and then learn something, especially if you're in the space of teaching people. Like, that's hard. Imagine disrupting someone in the middle of their Netflix binge.
You know what? I never thought of it like that, but you are absolutely right. Most people who are entrepreneurs and started their business because they loved what they were doing, making a product, selling a product, helping other people. They did not sign up to be a digital marketer. They have no desire. So any additional task that we say, "Oh wait, you need to do this too," and we just keep piling it on top and don't forget about this, you got to make sure about that. It's hard and it's overwhelming. It feels like I can't do one more thing, right? So we do the thing that's easiest.
And the thing that's designed to feel really good, like when you get that heart and someone likes what you did or you get those notifications, you feel that. You don't feel so much when you go into analytics of your emails and you see, oh, this person clicked. Like it doesn't give you that dopamine.
No, it doesn't. And then when you see the unsubscribes in the beginning, right? If you would unsubscribe, I don't do this anymore. So if you subscribe to my email list, like, thank you. And if you unsubscribe, I promise it's okay. You're just, I'm not the right fit for you. You're not the right fit for me. It's totally cool. But back in the day or when I was starting, if somebody would unsubscribe to my email list, I would find their name, I'd look them up on Facebook, I'd creep on them, and then I'd secretly rip them apart in my head, like, what gives them the right? So embarrassing, but it's so true because, we put this time and work into it, and sometimes we get mad.
Though we talked about this on your show, which I recommend listening to because we're all guilty of those little ego moments where it's like, "Oh, well, how could they do this? I put so much work in." How do you kind of coach people in your membership or in general to balance it out so that you are focusing on stuff that isn't just rented space that you own and really highly engaged people, but you're also making those new relationships because it is valuable to have those.
I try to simplify it for them, but in the beginning, it takes a little bit of work, and I'm just asking for, like, a little bit of time in the beginning, and then the rest will be easy. So in that beginning phase, what I'm asking whoever I'm coaching, I'm asking them, like, "What is your goal of what you're going to create on social or in your email, right? What's the end goal?" Always keep that in mind, and then reverse engineer it. Work backwards of how you wanna lead them to that goal. You don't have to create totally new content for social media, for your email, for your blog post. Repurpose it, right? And you've got this podcast, if somebody has a podcast or if they do training, like, take the content in there and repurpose it to create your content. Put it in your email list. When I do a podcast, and Sade, because you were on mine, but I will use AI, and I encourage you, use AI for some of the tasks, right? I'll dump the video into video AI. It breaks it up in clips for me for shorts and reels. Super easy, right? I don't have to do anything but upload. Then I'll ask AI to go through the transcript, pull quotes from the interview, and then I create quotes with my guest face on it, right? And I'll talk about it in my email. I'll put it on my website as a blog. I'm not adding more content. I'm taking what's already there. And that's where I think the biggest problem is that sometimes we feel like we have to keep coming up with new things. No. Or take what you posted last year and repost it if it's evergreen, meaning if it's still relevant, if it doesn't go, if it doesn't change, if it doesn't go out of style. Repost it, because if you think that the person who saw it last year is going to see it again this year, you're kidding yourself. If they saw it, they don't remember. I do it all the time, and I laugh because I will get the same people and more when I repost a really good post. They'll comment all over again like it's the first time they saw it, and I know because it's in my memories from last year on my personal page that they commented last year and they don't remember. So
This is 2 amazing points. First one is repurpose, repurpose. I fully believe that too. I think you choose, like, your primary platform or platforms, but then you can repurpose because people will say they probably say to you too, they said to me, like, "How do you have time to do a podcast and run your business?" Well, the podcast does the blog content, it creates the social media content, like, it is the funnel. So you just repurpose across. If I were doing everything uniquely, which I know a lot of people listening are doing that on social media, that is burnout. That is tiring. No wonder you don't have time to do the other stuff. You have to really think about reverse engineer what is the purpose for this? And then how can I put it in 20 different places? Because the second point I noticed when you were speaking was I did a launch recently and I posted, I think, every other day on social media, and I sent out maybe 2, 3 emails every week for a few weeks. And I had someone message me and say, "This is so great, but I wish you would have talked about it more. I didn't know till it was too late."
you know what? That's happened to me too. I didn't know. I didn't know this was happening. We have this assumption that everybody sees our stuff because we're glaring at it, but they're not. And even if it did show up in their feed, even if the email did show up in their inbox, they may not have opened it. They may not have seen it and stopped the scroll to read what you're posting. What you just shared is just another reason. Sometimes people are afraid to, I'm going to say, sound salesy, to just sell and keep talking about on social what they do because they don't want to come across salesy or spammy. Keep saying it. Don't be a one and doneer because nobody will see it. Keep repeating it. Act like you are just sick and tired of hearing yourself say it, and then say it 5 more times, right? Because people don't see it.
And this is a good point too, because if you think about even in real life, right? When you meet people and you meet someone, let's say sometimes it takes 3 times before you remember what someone does. And that's an in-person high touch interaction. So imagine you're trying to communicate that to complete strangers that don't have any sort of proximity to you besides maybe they follow and expecting that they'll remember when the person who meets you 3 times doesn't. I remember often what people do because it's, when you're a podcaster, you ask questions a lot and you just tend to retain information that way. So I'll always get the comment of, wow, you remembered that? And I was like, well, I've met you 3 times.
But sometimes I met somebody or they come back up and say hello, and I'm like, the blank stare, like, I feel like I should know, but the way they were just so kind, but I can't place. I don't know if I know 'em or not.
Exactly, and so you gotta multiply that by 10 when you're thinking about online stuff because it isn't the same level of investment on the person. Like, they're not as it's embarrassing if you don't remember someone that you've met a couple times, right? It's not embarrassing if you forgot about what someone does on social media.
Amen.
Well, let's talk about too. I want to make sure I ask you about this because this is your zone of genius here. Is we talked about some of the small ways that you grow your business, but what do you think are kind of the fundamental questions for people to ask themselves when they're thinking about scaling? Either they want to scale from they're kind of how you were in the very beginning, they're doing something, it's kind of they're figuring it out, or maybe they're going from doing something informally or one to one to try to create more structure around it. What are some of the questions that you would say for people to ask that can help them kind of figure out what's the game plan here?
Is what you're doing make you happy? Because sometimes when we think about scaling, there are a couple different things that can happen. One is I love what I'm doing and I want to scale. Like I want to keep doing this. And then another is I want to keep scaling, but I want to add more to my plate, especially in the early phase, right? Or I'm going to take more on because that's more revenue. But what they realize is that they may not really love everything they're doing. My advice for that, and it depends where you are in your journey, but if you're early in the journey, go ahead and try all the different things, right? And I'll use myself like with the digital marketing, I did all the things digital marketing. And then I realized what I really like doing and which things, I'd see it show up on my to do list or I'd send out an invoice and I'm like, I don't even really want to do this, right? Before it had nothing to do with the client, it was the job. I'm like, I don't even feel like that. So I eliminated it. But in the beginning, you may not know what you want to, right? And my niece is a photographer. So we've had these conversations too with what type of photography, right? And there's a lot of photographers out there. Like, what do you focus on? Because there's everything. Do a little bit of it all until you realize what you like and then do what you love. Do what you love. Don't feel like you have to keep in order to grow, once you get past that, you have to keep taking things that you don't enjoy. You don't. Get niche down. We've all heard it, right? And when you do niche down, know who your ideal client is. That's a big mistake I see that happens. People don't know who they're talking to because they want to serve everybody. And what happens is that your message gets really, really watered down. So don't make that mistake. That's the first big mistake. The second is taking everything on because you feel like it'll bring more revenue. No, do what makes you really happy. And the third is more of a mindset thing, right? Because being an entrepreneur, you feel really alone in that journey. You feel like you're supposed to have all the answers, you're supposed to know what to do, and sometimes you're afraid to ask for questions. At least I was afraid to ask questions because I thought, well, then it's gonna make me look like I don't know what I'm doing. People will see who I am and that I am winging this and trying to figure it out, so I won't ask questions. Oh my gosh, boy, did that hold me back big time. Ask the questions. Use your resources around you. You know somebody who is doing, has gone through, reach out to them and ask them for help. Now, don't pick their brain and suck the life out of them, right? Keep it to like one question. Who is a rock star in this area that you're stuck in? And ask them the one question. Don't keep asking and asking and asking because that gets to be a lot, right? Like, treasure that time that they're giving you and then move on. Ask somebody else the question who's a rock star in another area.
Do you want to scale what you're doing and how do you want to scale? Because I've met a lot of entrepreneurs and you probably have too in your work that they've done exceptionally well and now they're burnt out and they want to exit. And they've created this business that's just based around them. So the exit strategy is not, I'm going to sell it, it's, I'm going to stop. And then I have to start over all over again. And while I understand like pivots and I've done that too, I think from the beginning, understanding what do you value, what's a way that you want to grow and investing time in that is really important. I had this conversation today because I was like, I really don't want to get back into the business model I was in before in fitness, where I was constantly doing high ticket and sales calls stuff. That was not enjoyable to me. I feel like if I had asked some of the questions you said now, I probably would have built what I'm doing now a lot sooner.
I'm right there with you. I'm right there with you. I've gone through that. And everything that I share, I'm sharing from experience because these are the mistakes that I made and that I learned from. And so it's not like, hey, I read this book and this is what it said to do. Like I fell on my face over and over and over again. And so now what I say is like, hey, listen, here's what I wish I would have done. And I agree with you. I think if I had back in 2012, just I had to go through the whole cake pop thing, right, to know what I know, but would have started right here with She Is Collective and just continuing to help women and nurture women. And literally, I had like a dollar 76 one time, no gas in my car, digging for change in my purse. Couldn't even put, a full $2 in my gas tank. I know what it feels like to be there, and I know how to get out of it on my own.
What was it that helps you get out of it? I know obviously like having your kids to think of is it the biggest motivator in the world. What was the kind of shift on top of that that helped you? Because I think we all fall into this. It happens. I'm going to say I have this entrepreneur depression like every 3 months maybe. And sometimes and it has been in the past where it is, like, down to that last dollar, and other times it's just like, "This is not working. Why how do I get out of this mental hole?" What has helped you, and what do you often teach people?
That's a really good question. I don't know if anybody's ever asked, like, what
Mm.
helped you overcome that. I will say when I had the cake pop business, I was fortunate enough that I had somebody reach out to me who has hundreds of franchises who said, "I wanna mentor you." And so that was really great. I didn't love what I was doing. I didn't love being stuck in the kitchen. I think that's what hurt me, but his advice and the information he gave me, I carry with me today, that even though it's something totally different. I think my big shift happened when I started actually doing what I do today, and I liked it a lot more. The ticket price was higher, it was higher than $2, right? You try to build a profit margin on only a $2 sale and it's there. Like I could tell you that, I have a 30% margin, but that means nothing when the product is $2, you know? So but now, the ticket was higher. I liked what I did and that was a shift. And it's probably just really enjoying what I'm doing and talking more about it.
Finding your area that you really enjoy. And I appreciate what you said too before about how you kind of had to go through that anyways to be able to do it now. And I think there's a lot of truth to that, that all of us, whatever we've done so far, you needed that to be able to take the next step. But you have to have the courage to then say, okay, this is what the universe and the information, all the people are telling me. This is time for me to act differently rather than continuing to, stay with what's not working, which I've done that. I did that probably 4 years longer than I should have. I feel like this is where when we talk about the mental difficulty and the pivots, etc., something that really made a difference for me, and I know it has for you and the people you've worked with, is being around others. Like talking to other people in the same situation or a few steps ahead. That has made the most difference entirely. And I know for you, community is a really big thing. So if you can share just a little bit about the community you've created and why.
Well, thank you for that question. And you're right. And I mentioned this earlier being an entrepreneur, I felt so alone and I felt like I had to have the answers and I didn't reach out for anybody. Once I got through all that, I created this community called She Is Collective. And I really created it for the woman that I was in 2012. And so She Is Collective is a community of women in business and inside that community, there's an app so you can log on from your phone, but there are open office hours. So once a week, you can hop on. It's like literally opening up my virtual doors. And you're sitting at my desk and asking me whatever you want to ask. There's also courses and trainings and move together. And it feels really good to be part of that and to know that you have this community of women cheering for you the whole time.
Can you share then how people can connect with you and also how they can find out more about She Is Collective?
So you can find me, and I'll share my personal pages. It's at Deanna Hinsz, and that's DeannaHinsz. You can find me on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on Instagram, or YouTube with that handle. And then you can go to my website, deannahinsz.com. For Carbon Silk, it's carbonsilk.digital, and that's the same handle across all social media platforms.
Thank you for coming on and being very real and open and super helpful.
Aw, well, thank you for having me on. This has been great, and I think this is the beginning of our friendship. I said that on my podcast last time. Joy, it's so much fun to talk to you. So thank you for inviting me on.